What up, what up? Welcome back to the channel. I'm J, and we are locked in. I got a question for you. What's on your TV? Now, this is episode 4 of On My Block, and we seen that Monse's dad ain't got the money to go back to school. We seen that grandma is dying on us. Oh my goodness, and we see that our boy Ruby is going through it because the girl he loves don't want him back. But before we get into this episode, shout out to the notification gang. If you're new to the channel, you can be a part of it. Hit your subscribe button, turn on your notification bell so you get something every time I upload. Hit that like button, it's the easiest thing you can do. Now, moving forward, we know that body's out there. That's the thing that's lingering over all of our heads because each one of them have a part of this. They're all connected to this body. Now, they all have their own individual things that they're dealing with, but this jail time is more important than friendships that they have and their little love relationships that they have. So let's jump into it. This is episode 4 of On My Block. Just as I expected, Pops ain't have enough money to send her back to school. He lost his job. Now she's talking about, you could have gave me a heads up. I could try to get a scholarship or something. But kids don't understand how it is in the real world. You can get laid off like that. You could lose your job. It could be an economy crashing. It could be anything that happens. Your company lose funding. The boss, the CEO is crooked. Kids don't understand that. So for her, she's like, now I'm stuck here and I got caught off guard at the last minute. But it's not really his fault because he was doing the best he could to keep you in that school with the job he had. Now, when you get older, you'll be more grateful. Like, damn, my dad tried his best. He just lost his job. Monse storms out the house because she's upset and she has every right to be. She liked that school. She don't want to be in Free Ridge. But she gets a call from her phone and says, maybe LAPD. She gets the phone call. She like, oh, you want to do what? They all get called in for questioning. I told y'all that body's gonna come up, and that's more important than any relationship that they have going on amongst themselves with girlfriends, anything. So now they're all at the police station. Now, this is a little unrealistic because they are all underage. Now, no cop is gonna call a kid in for questioning. That's the first thing. Second of all, they can't even question none of these people without an adult there. Third thing, never talk to the police without a lawyer present. Regardless if you're in there by yourself, if you're an adult or a kid, I want a lawyer present because one thing we know about the cops is they don't care who did the crime. They just want to arrest somebody for the crime. Now, we know this crew, they're dysfunctional. Monse is gone. She used to date Caesar. Her and Caesar broke up because he was in the gang and didn't want to do that. Now, Jamal, he's over here and he's upset because Monse's sitting next to him and he heard a phone call where she was talking about him. So he's going off on her the whole time. We got Ruby. He's pacing back and forth like, I'm nervous. What should I do if they offer me water? What should I do? Now, Jamal, he in his feelings. He's talking to Monse. She was sitting in the chair. He's like, hey, scoot over. And she's like, why are you acting like that? He's like, what, like an immature child? You got Ruby chiming in like, we are a child. We are all kids in here. We shouldn't be here. But they need to come up with a plan because when they get in there to get questioned by the cops, they ain't trying to hear that. So they just spurred out Bigfoot. And everybody's like, Bigfoot? Monse is the first one called into the office. So they were just out there discussing Bigfoot. Now it turns out the cop is saying, hey, there was an Uber driver that dropped you and your friends off in the area that we found the body. So what does she do? Quick thinking. She brings up Bigfoot. Oh, we were all out there looking for Bigfoot. Now everybody's giving information about Bigfoot. Normally they're in the cold, but they migrate down here when they're mating. They have thick fur. This is what their mating call sounds like. This is how they do this. This is how they do this. Because they all had to come up with a story that was similar to each other. So the cop would be like, okay, they were just kids looking for Bigfoot. Now, once they all get outside, Jamal, he wants his credit for Bigfoot. Now, if you remember, he was telling them about Bigfoot back in early seasons, talking about this is what Bigfoot does. Because he was just trying to school them of what's going to be potentially in those woods. So he wants his credit. Now everyone's here and things aren't going like they wanted to. Now Jamal and Ruby, they end up leaving together because they still don't have, you know what I'm saying, they still don't have a comfort zone with Caesar since the money is gone. Monse and Jamal, they still have their little issue because of the phone call he heard. And then Monse and Caesar, they aren't seeing eye to eye, so she leaves. And everybody goes their own way. So we still only got 50% of the crew, even though we had the whole crew together right here. One of the cops that Caesar and the crew have been dealing with, he pulls up on him after he gets released from jail. Now, what he wants to do is talk to Caesar about everything that's been going on. That body popping up, y'all getting questioned. Everybody needs to just lay low at this point. Now, on the other hand, they get back to Ruby's house and Ruby's going through it. Jasmine, she left him. He don't know what to do. He's checking her Netflix account, looking at what she's looking at the shows she's watching on her Amazon wish list. Like, man, she might be leaving me clues. She's ordering different type of things now. She doesn't normally do this. This is her sending subliminals to me on how to get her back. But really, this is just her finding herself and living her life, taking the advice from Monse to be her own woman. Now, Jamal and Grandma, they had a little secret about her being sick and not telling Ruby because Ruby depends on her. But they're asking about Jasmine since she's a woman she would know. And you hear Jamal talking about Ruby would like to know the truth. He's hinting at her telling Ruby that she's sick while he's indicating we want the truth about Jasmine also. So Ruby don't know what's going on. He just looking at him like, y'all are acting kind of weird. Now in the car with the cop, Caesar's keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? This is police, but hey, the G code is the G code. Now the cops talking about, man, with the profits from the streets sprinkling into jail and stuff, this can get ugly. And Caesar makes a valid point. That ain't my problem. I deal with the stuff on the outside. Anything that got to go on inside that prison, inside the jail, that's on you and whoever else is on the inside. It ain't got nothing to do with me. It turns out Oscar had the cop go talk to him to try to convince him, hey, lay low, leave all this drugs and stuff and all this money alone because the cops are looking. So it was just, it wasn't a real thing. It was more of a bluff to try to get his brother out. But the cop tells him he didn't fall for it. He has blinders on. He ain't trying to hear none of that. And he's like, damn. All right, thanks for, at least trying. And his girl is telling him, you tried. You're doing everything you can for your brother. He's just not listening. You're just going to have to move on without him. Because at the end of the day, hey, a man is going to make a decision for himself. All you can do is give him advice. If they don't take it, they don't take it. But you hope that they do. Now, Monse, she used to babysit these kids. And she's over there and they're just a little too friendly. She's texting on her phone talking about, I'm sorry. So she's sending off a text message to one of her friends. Maybe Jamal, maybe Caesar. But just apologizing for whatever she did. And the kid's talking about, hey, who are you texting sorry to? And the dad's like, man, back up some. You all open her phone and stuff. The other kid's like, yeah, what are you sorry for? Hey, both of y'all shut up. That's what I would have said. Get back to making these cookies. So Monse was trying to text Jamal. She sent a text. It doesn't go through. She calls his phone several times. It goes straight to voicemail. She calls off the house phone of the house that she's at. And it's Jamal. He's like, well, okay, maybe I did have you blocked. But she's trying to explain, you never gave me a chance to tell you what happened. Because all he heard was a butt dial. And she's trying to convince him, I wasn't talking about you. I was actually talking about my teacher. And he's like, nah, I heard what you said. You were calling me immature. You were calling me childish. Now she's saying I was talking to my partner and all we did was have class together. We didn't talk about anything personal. We were talking about the teacher. He gets a call from Ruby. So he has to click over and he's talking about, hey, does this seem normal? Jasmine buying this stuff? He's like, hey, bro, get off of that. Let's talk about me. Monse called to me and she tried to apologize. And he's like, well, did you listen to her? And Jamal being Jamal, he's like, Jamal goes to Jasmine's house and he comes with cards and a flower because he's tired of the nonsense and all the bull that Ruby keeps hitting him up about Jasmine. So she looks at the flowers. She's like, nope, he wouldn't buy these because they almost full bloom. They'll die quickly. Nope, this card is nice, but he wouldn't do this. So they both kind of going back and forth because Jamal is trying to say, oh yeah, he's just so love struck and so love sick. He can't even get out the bed. She calls him out and she's right. You're just trying to put him on me to get him off your back. He's like, all right, I am. But at least hear him out because the boy, he's doing some weird stuff at this point and she's not trying to hear it. Now Monse is over here and she's just saying, okay, I'll do all these things with your kids, but actually, I'm going to stay over here a couple of more days. And he's like, is that fine? Will your dad be okay with that? And she had the argument with the dad because he lost his job. So she's mad at him for losing his job. And she wants him to spend all the money that he does have to keep her in the school, but realistically, you got to keep a house over his head, and there's free school here. Now Jasmine says she's gonna hear Jamal out, and maybe potentially, maybe, just maybe, a little maybe, there's a little chance that she might take Ruby back. But she only said this because Jamal. Now Ruby's trying to figure out what he can do to keep his mind off of Jasmine, and he's asking, when should I talk to her? Now Grandma's like, look, you got to keep your mind busy, because if you ain't doing nothing, you can keep thinking about it, and you got to keep your hands busy. And he's looking at her like, whoa, wait a minute, she's talking about sewing. Yeah, keeping your hand busy with a needle and some thread. Now Caesar and Joker, they got the meeting, they got everybody in the house, the lights are dim, so it's about action. And they're like, Joker's like, look, we need to make some moves, go ahead and get them up off the streets. Now Caesar, he's not looking at it like that. He's like, nah, we got to be a little smarter than that. We got to make a plan. We got to put a plan in action. Now, Jamal told Jasmine he would do anything if she took Ruby back. Well, she wants him to dress up like an elf, help decorate for the Christmas party. He's like, oh, brother, at least I'll do it. Now, they get over there. They start talking about Monse, and he starts to admit that he wants to kind of apologize to her because the butt call and what she said, even if it wasn't to him, it kind of changed his life and put him on the trajectory that he's on now. So he's saying if Monse didn't do that, it wouldn't have put that fire in him to make him go play football, become the ladies' man. So he's like, you know what? It's actually pretty good that she did that. So I do want to apologize to her. So these two, they spent the day together and they just got closer. They both opened up to each other. And they're seeing like, hey, you actually pretty cool. She's looking at Jamal like, yeah, you actually pretty cool too. So he's like, well, won't you come with me? You can't spend Christmas by yourself because her aunt went to Mexico. She didn't have her passport. So he's like, man, you can come hang with me. But they both agree we can't let Ruby find out that you and I are friends because that just will not work. And they right, like, we'll still act like we don't like each other around around Ruby, but we'll still be cool. Now she's staying at the babysitter's house. Monse's sitting there and she's confused. She doesn't know what she's going to do. I'm hanging out here for a couple of days because I don't want to go home because my dad lost his job and I'm ungrateful. But the white man comes in talking about, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and pay for you to go to school. Now, if I'm paying for her to go to school, that means whenever you come back, you'll be babysitting, no questions asked. And you have to babysit my kids until they look like they're about 8 years old, at least till 12, 13, when I can start leaving them home by themselves. You're pretty much going to be our maid whenever you come back in town, put it like that. Caesar's sitting in his room and he knows the block is hot. The cops are starting to question people. They got a body. He knows how this whole thing runs. He's been in the gang for 2 years. So he knows when the cops start cracking down, they are cracking down, especially when they find a body. So he sends a text to the group chat, the core four, him and the crew. Heads up, Bigfoot's been ID'd. And he's just letting them know, hey, look, the cops, they know who the body is. And they're going to be looking and asking questions. Now, he has to send this out to them because they don't know how to operate. We've seen them in the police station. He was the only one that was cool, calm, and collective. Everybody else was nervous as hell. After everybody sees the text message, Caesar goes ahead and deletes the whole text group from his phone because he doesn't want to have any of that evidence. And this is pretty much signifying he's done with the crew. I gave them a head up. So whatever happens from here, that's going to be on them. And he's, disconnecting himself from the other three. There you go, episode 4 of On My Block. Let me know what you think about Ruby if he finds out that Jamal and Jasmine are cool. He's gonna be like, wait a minute, you turned your back on me and you went to go be friends with her, but you didn't help me. You already know how Ruby gets, but let me know what y'all think. Thanks for watching. I'm Mo.J. If you like the content on the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I got a question for you. What's on your TV? I'm out.
Jimmy on a beat, boy.